I fell asleep at night with my files spread out on my bed. I jumped up even on non-jury days at 5 a.m., thinking somehow I was late to court. Every case was a cause I could take up, because every case represented a victim. Guilty pleas caused me great personal turmoil. How was I to discern if today's shoplifter would become tomorrow's armed robber? I quickly gained a reputation for being unreasonable when negotiating pleas and vicious at trial. I didn't care. The battle was all that mattered. It is of those years that I am the proudest. I made next to nothing, but the reward to my heart and soul was priceless. I had the opportunity to be the voice of those who have no voice, most often women, children, and minorities, overlooked and never heard in our system. I learned what they don't teach you in law school, that the Constitution protects the accused, blanketing them and safeguarding their rights. Victims have no voice, no face, and no recourse. The Founding Fathers, with all due respect, did not consider them, and today our courtrooms, our judges, our lawmakers follow suit. My transition from a courtroom in Atlanta to a New York City television studio was by happenstance. While serving as a special prosecutor in Atlanta, I was called to sit on a panel of legal experts in the Hall of Justice in New York City while still prosecuting in Atlanta. I happened to be seated between two renowned defense attorneys, Johnny Cochran, straight off the O.J. Simpson case, and Roy Black, straight off a victory in the William Kennedy Smith rape case. Naturally, we got into a huge fight. Several months later, the elected district attorney in Atlanta, my boss, decided to retire. I was devastated. Not only had Mr. Slayton given me the chance to become a trial lawyer at a time when very few women in the South were litigating in courtrooms, he was like a grandfather to me. I didn't know what I would do. I hadn't gone to law school to handle slip and falls, argue whiplash car accidents, or haggle over contracts. I wanted justice for crime victims. Nothing else was important to me. I considered public service with the Battered Women's Center, but then the founder of Courtroom Television Network, Steve Brill, flew to Atlanta and asked me face-to-face to join his new experiment, co-anchoring a legal talk show with Johnny Cochran. I deeply disagreed with the Simpson defense, and with the option of high-priced defense work looming, I wanted to take Cochran on. I took off for New York shortly after Mr. Slayton served out his office. In 1997, I arrived in New York with 2 boxes of clothing, a curling iron, and $200 in my savings account. Even now, all these years later, while sitting on a dark set staring into a camera lens, I wonder if I should go back to the courtroom to battle adversaries who trick Lady Justice, taking them on one by one. But I accept that just as I was led to the airwaves, I know God will lead me to my next battle, making my path clear. I continue on, grateful. This is what I know. There is a very real struggle going on in our world today, the age-old struggle between good and evil. Maybe it sounds simplistic, but it is true nevertheless. We must stand up and fight for what is right, even when we know we could very well lose. I find my sharpest sword to be the truth, and I use it whenever I can. When the sorrow, the frustration, the moments with Keith forever lost surface, my response is to fight. Herein is the truth as I see it. I'm on the inside of the struggle for justice, calling out to all who will listen. This is what I see and what I know, regardless of whether it is politically incorrect or disturbing or tastes bitter going down. The battle of good against evil is real and palpable and is being waged in your local courthouse. The struggle for justice in this country didn't end with the writing of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It's happening now. The fight has only started and is raging in courtrooms all across this country. Please take a listen, friend. Chapter 1. Defense Attorneys and Other Wily Characters I Have Known. The first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers. William Shakespeare. I was just doing my job. That's the tired excuse offered up by every defense attorney whenever they're asked how they do what they do, how they pull the wool over jurors' eyes to make sure the repeat offender they're defending walks free. I'll never know how they can look in the mirror when their client goes out and commits yet another crime, causing more suffering to innocent victims. I've heard I'm just doing my job, it's in the Constitution, too many times to count. Just doing their jobs. They make it sound like they're making donuts, drawing the yellow line down the street with a spray gun, or manning a toll booth on the freeway. Nothing personal, just doing their jobs. In response, I agree with Dickens. If that's the law, then the law is an ass. That same tired excuse has been used to explain away wrongdoing throughout history. Everyone from the repo guy to the utility worker who cuts off electricity to the needy, to the parking lot attendant who won't refund your quarters after you lose them in a broken meter, to banks who foreclose on Christmas. They all work the same excuse. They're all just doing their jobs. When it comes to defense attorneys singing the same chorus, I don't buy it. Justice is not just a job. The duty of a jury is to render a true verdict, a verdict that speaks the truth. How is that attainable when the job of defense attorneys is to use every means possible to get their clients acquitted, regardless of the truth? The 2002 murder trial of David Westerfield, found guilty of kidnapping and murdering his 7-year-old neighbor Danielle Van Dam, is one of the most horrifying examples of the true business of being a defense attorney. The minute her disappearance was made public, there was an intense, massive, and frantic search involving hundreds of volunteers, all desperately working around the clock to find any trace of this beautiful girl. They combed the hillsides, the brush, the canyons, and the creeks near the Van Dam's San Diego home. Danielle's parents, Damon and Brenda Van Dam, were completely distraught. Brenda appeared on television over and over, begging for her daughter's return. Her face was swollen from crying, her eyes were raw and red. While this was going on, Westerfield's defense lawyer, Stephen Feldman, was trying his best to bargain with prosecutors, to cut a plea deal. Feldman knew Westerfield had only one bargaining chip, the location of Danielle's body. In exchange for life behind bars as opposed to death by lethal injection as dictated by California law, Westerfield would give up the location of the little girl's remains. Knowing full well his client was a child killer, Feldman went into open court to launch a defense that consisted of dragging the 7-year-old victim's parents through the mud, ruining their reputations within the community, and revealing to the jury and the world that the couple had once been swingers. The defense boldly claimed the Van Dams had unwittingly introduced a sexual predator into their own home. Knowing it wasn't true, Feldman argued someone else had killed Danielle, some predator linked to her parents. Nothing could be further from the truth. The predator was David Westerfield. Feldman also chose to twist science itself to prove a series of lies to the jury. He produced a forensic entomologist to tell the jury that the larvae, maggots, on this beautiful child's body were of such an age as to preclude Westerfield from suspicion. He reasoned that the larvae were hatched on the body at a time when Westerfield was already under tight surveillance by police, and therefore he could not possibly be the killer who disposed of the child's body. The argument was incredibly scientific and innovative, but hardly original. Turns out Feldman had used the exact same defense and the exact same expert in another murder trial and snagged an acquittal because of it. The second time around, it wasn't creative, innovative, or clever, just tired and rehearsed. Most important, the defense didn't fit the facts of the case or the truth. I am sick at heart that an officer of the court concocted that defense while knowing the whole time his own client knew where Danielle was hidden. Feldman is a veteran trial lawyer, and under the law is entitled to put on the best case he can on behalf of his client. Still, it's so disheartening that juries are hoodwinked every day by defense lawyers just doing their jobs. Our adversarial system allows it. In fact, encourages it. They get paid tons of money to do it. Successful defense attorneys are idolized, treated like rock stars. And hey, they're just doing their jobs. The Dark Side. Louis R. Slayton was the elected district attorney of Fulton County in inner-city Atlanta, where I tried cases for 10 years. He was like a grandfather to me, and when he announced he was retiring after 37 years in office, I was shocked. I went to his office and begged him to serve another term. I said the public, and most important, the city's crime victims, needed him. But he was well into his 70s and wanted to spend his remaining years with his wife and say goodbye to the courthouse. What could I say? I walked from his office with my head reeling.